See who's here. See if we've got any audio. Give it a few minutes and see if someone turns up. This is fairly late notice. Are we here? Maybe we're here. Maybe no one's particularly interested in it. That's all right. I'm going to continue with this project because I'd like to get it finished. And it's quite a good project, and there's a lot of things that are nice to sort of go through and get me up to speed a bit so that I can do some other projects. So that's probably how it's going to work. I'm going to go anyway. It's a stinking hot day here again after the rain and stuff. Kind of nice. But spent all day in the machine shop, so I'm black. Morse taper, drive dogs for a good late set off. That's all good. I'd really like an audio check. We have something here? Someone? If someone's there, there is someone there. Jump on chat and just tell me you can hear me. Yeah, audio's good. Thanks, Mark. You don't have to make a habit of this. Appreciate you signing in. The last couple of live streams that you've had, I've been late-ish. To the extreme. But anyway, here we are. So it's rainy, it's wet, it's miserable for all weekend. 80 millimetres of rain and a couple of downbursts, like cloud bursts, just happened. About 120 mil, something like that, of hail. Like seriously, it's been piled up. And I've been to work today, and I went down to Crofts this afternoon to pick up a fan that was the right price, because we need one here, and it is a bit noisy, so we might have to put new bearings in it and run it through an electrolysis bath to get rid of some rust and put a coat of paint on it. But that's easy fixed. Anyway, let's put a scene in here, because I don't think I've got that far. I've got a blue screen. Got me down the bottom still. So there's a sign-in screen. Hopefully it remembers me, because I can't remember a password. And it did, so that's good. Signing in, it says. So whistle progress seems to be coming along pretty well, Mark. It's turned into a bit of a job, but it's going to be nice. We've got two people there now. guess who the other ones is, but there are people that will watch this after the fact. So I will make an effort to do this. I'm not sure what I was messing around with last, so we'll have a look here. And probably haven't opened this program since last week. No, that was a job for Bill. We'll go back. So we sign into onshape, we get a screen that looks like this. There may not be as many projects in yours. Usually you start with a new project or a new document. We've got one here that says low angle block plane, so we'll click that. We've been working on that. This is what we have. It's starting to look pretty good. It's really starting to look pretty excellent. Now, have a look where we were with this. There's a few things we wanted to do tonight. Looking at this, I'm going to go back to here. Over here somewhere. So is this here, this arrangement here that moves the blade backwards and forwards is next. What I've realised is that this piece here in the middle should be the distance below this one and below here and below here. It should be the thickness of the lever, which I think is about 1 point something. So that's something that's fairly easily fixed. Then there's this sticky up bit in the middle. Pretty straightforward. We might actually do that. And the only other real feature on this is the stamping on the front, which we may or may not do. We'll see. Then we can start putting some of the other bits on. So looking at this, we did manage to animate this, I think. So we open the animate screen. I did sit down and work this out. Maybe it's that one. It's turning. But we can grab a hold of that and give it a spin. A bit of a mess with some animations too while we're doing this because I did have a look at this after we closed live stream last week and sort of got it somewhere near where it needs to be, but I'll have to think about that. Anyway, this piece in the middle and the fact that if we look down here, this boss here lines up with this frog, and it should be a little bit below. If we have a look here, all these bits here, there we go. It needs to be the distance, the thickness of this below, which is, oh gosh, we're going to say that's 1.6. It's probably not. We're going to call it 1.6. So if we click on that, right, we'll go back here to Part Studio 1, which is the actual plate. And we haven't renamed that, so we might do that. Ways we can do that, but let's click that. Base plate, we're going to call that. We click on here. It tells us what the extrude is. Now we can just change that and edit it quite easily. Nope, that's not the right one. It's extrude 9. So it goes to the face of this extrude, which is underneath. We can click an offset direction. Offset distance, which I think is going to be 1.6. That's not what we want. This one here is what we want, which is starting offset. Think about it. Starting offset. Let's make this 1.6. That's 1.6 up. So if we reverse that, it'll be 1.6 down. So let's fix that. What it hasn't done is modified all these other things that will work, because we've done that back there. It's just took a little minute to sort itself out. But now if we look down that frog, it's a little bit under. Now, we've already got a plane in place there. We did talk about that with someone earlier. If you want to make a skew mouse plane, or a plane that's actually on an angle this way, or looking at it, say from the back, you want something that's on angle this way, then if you set this plane up to that line, and then you could angle it, and that would change that relationship in the whole and all that sort of stuff. It's a bit more fiddly than that, but that's probably a simple way to draw that. Now, we want to put a sketch on that plane. So sketch, is that how we want to do it? Seriously, good question. No, it's not. We're not going to do it that way. The sketch we will do is going to be on the side. So in the centre, so the sketch we want to do is going to be on the right panel, which is that one, right plane. We can click this one up here, or we can click this box, and that's what I've done. So we're putting a sketch on that plane. And we want to use that line there, which projects that line, see, straight onto that plane. We also want to use this line here, part 1. We've got those two lines. So if we go extend, which is the X key, or we can just do that and select that line. We can drag this up here as far as we want. And our part needs to be between this line and that line. Looking at it, I reckon the front one's about 20 millimeters. It's on a bit of an angle. Which angle is it on? So what we're line between this one and this one. There somewhere. It's about 20 millimeters long. Let's do 20 millimeters high. We'll put a construction line in here. Construction line there like that. Put a line here. That's got an orange back in it. I don't know if you see that orange line in it when it's parallel. We're getting that little horizontal line out to the left there, or to the right of the, out to the right of the line, which tells us that it's a parallel line. And it's parallel with, or it's a horizontal line. If it's a parallel line, it'd be two lines. If we make it do that, if we highlight that. No, it's a horizontal line. It defaults to. We click that, press escape so it doesn't have a measurement. And then we can put a dimension on here. There to there. Close, but no cigar. 20 millimeters. So we need a line from here. Now, the reason I've gone past there is because if we constrain it to that line perpendicular, making an angle without losing some connections is going to be a bit of a mess. So we're not going to do that. We can easily trim it later. I don't know what that angle is. .3, so it's about this. Make it 82, that's 8 degrees. And we've got a measurement about 8 millimeters up this line. The easiest way to do that is go from that point to that point, I think. If we move this cursor around, we'll give us the measurement on that. If we go 8 millimeters, there we go. And the next line down there is vertical. That's sort of the shape of it. That's what we need, not the dimension. So we can trim this. And we should trim it. There we go. And trim this out there. At this point we can trim that one. And trim that one. And trim that bit in there. And it's starting to look more like it. Now this isn't vertical, this line. It's about 1 degree, something like that. Let's put a dimension on there and see if it'll just do that. We're going to have to mess around. Yeah, going to have to mess around. So that's the constraint that's our problem. If we click on that, just delete, that disappears and that works. Well, what it hasn't done, I don't think, and we can check that. As though, let's move the whole line, so that's a good thing. So this comes down in a U here and comes back up. And the bottom of the U is, we're going to call it 5 mil off that bottom line. And looking at it, it's about 7 mils diameter. So if we put another line in here, we press Q for a construction line, we put another line through here. And we'll put a measurement, which is half the radius. And that distance is 5 and 3.5, 0.5. Right. And we put a measurement on this line here from, no. Well, if we trim that, that's the easiest way, is just trim that there. Wrong one. Shortcut makes it easier, and I should just press M. If we trim that line out of there, then all we need to do is dimension that one. Has 7 millimeters. Then what happens if we put a center point arc in here? It automatically finds the center of that line for us if we need to, and we can go down there and put that curve in, and we can trim this line here. Oops, we haven't done that yet. Let's select trim. We can trim that one. We can put another construction line in. It's probably the easiest way. Straight up here. Now this will give us a vertical line there. You see the little constraint. And we can mirror this. On that, it turns that one yellow because that's the mirror line. And then we'll put another one in there. So that's given us the V. Looking at this, I haven't pulled this apart because it's riveted, so it's a bit difficult to see. But looking at it, it's about 4 millimeters lower than this line here. I'm going to do the same again. Construction line through here. Escape. Trim that piece out. Trim that piece out. Put dimension in here from that point there to this line. Look at that. Oh my gosh. Let's call it 4.5. Do the same thing here. We can measure this for the distance. I reckon that's 4 millimeters. If we select that line as a construction line and press Q or deselect that, and makes it a real line. And because we're just going to mirror this, oops, we didn't select off that. Rather than redimension this and angle it and all that sort of thing, so all we're going to do is mirror that line too, I think, on there. Trim that one. That one. That one. Put a fillet on there because it's a round top, and that millimeters wide roughly. It won't handle R5. I can handle R1.7, I think it will handle. Not quite perfect, but sort of the right shape. And the X button for extend. Extend this down to there. So there we go, we've got the shape. We can press N for trim, and we can trim this one. Trim that one. Now, there's a hole in here. About the same distance. I'm going to say 4.5 down from this front piece. might as well put that in while we're going. So it's another construction line. We'll press Q. We'll put a line through here somewhere. And we'll put dimension on that. We'll call it 4.5, the same as the other one. Trim this end of the line. That end of the line. We can put another construction line in there and find the centre of it, and there we go. I reckon that's something like that 3mm pin, so we'll put a hole in here, it's 3mm. Oops. I like that very much. Troll's Edge, your friend. We'll call that 3mm diameter. There we go. So there's a pinhole. If we extrude that, it gives us the shape. There's a couple of ways we could do this. We could extrude each side as new pieces, and then probably that works. And then join them all up later. Really extrude it as a single piece and then cut the middle out later, which is probably what we should do, because I don't feel like that groove is really all the way through. Got a bit of a shape to it. So, and also looking at the front of it, should have a little bit of a, make that simple anyway so you can actually see that it's off the centre there. It should have a little bit of a draft this way and this way, and unless you extrude it up this way, you can't put a draft in it like that. So we need to chop a bit off it later. Best way to do that is just to make it, what, with 5.5mm. We're going to go guesswork like that. Extrude it like that. Is that enough? Does that look enough? Let's go 6. .5. So it looks right. Yeah, righto. Now, so we're going to put a sketch on this plane, just for this, and use the project or convert or use button. Then from there, we're going to put an angled line It looks about right. Let's just check that angle. Might as well keep them a bit, sort of. At least it's not raining tonight, which is really nice. Yeah, 86. All we've got to do is draw a rough sketch around here. It probably doesn't need to be any better than that or worse than that. And then extrude that. Yeah, that comes all the way past there. It was trying to add it in, but we need to remove it. It's what we need to do. And there we go, we've got a taper on it. If we mirror that now, part mirror, entity mirrors that, and a mirror plane is this part of the plane. We want to add them together. That gives us that part there, which should be very nice. Now, there's a groove all the way up, but I think we want to add it back into part one now. We'll do that. Click on this corner up here to bring it all back into frame. Look at the right side there. It's not right because when we look at this, we can see that sticks part of a distance past there, so it's going to need moving. So not even close to right. We didn't take that into any consideration at all. If we call this distance, measure this actually, because we should get a little bit prepared. I'll look here. I reckon 62 mil. So if we double check that, we can use this function down here. We're right here in the corner behind my face. I'm going to look over here to get this little measuring tape. It says show measure details. And it pops up a little screen, a little measure screen here. When you click that, it looks like a little measuring tape down there. We want to measure from this line to this line, shortest distance. We want it in metric because it's the way we measured it. It's nowhere near enough. $55.8 and needs to be 62. So interestingly, we've stuffed that up. We can still move it. Sketch 6 is this one. Right. Hide this again because it's a bit difficult to look at. But from this point here, we need a measurement. So from this point to this point, if we've done this right, we should be able to just measure that. Let's go 62 and see what happens. There's a constraint somewhere that's in the way. Something's happened. What's jamming us up? Interesting. Did that do it? It did it. So it's that one there. Because we've used this measure here, if we press X for extend and extend this line out here, we've got that measurement wrong because we've tried to guess this measurement. Let's sort this out. We'll extend this up here. So, hey John, what's going on? We're still messing with this block plane. Try and get this somewhere near finished over the next little while. Let's extend this line, but we extend it as a construction line. Up to there. And we measure that line there. From there to there. 2.69766. That's not quite what we want to do, because if we move it that distance, it's going to be wrong. Control. We're going to do that too, and we go, let's do it vertically. It's a vertical line. And we'll trim that. And if we measure that distance now, that line, 2.527, that should work. That fixes that, but it doesn't fix some other things. Interesting. It doesn't even fix that. I think we're going to redraw it because we've stuffed that up. This line here needs to be on that line there. So if we extend this X and extend this one up to there, and then extend this one up to there. And M for trim. Remove that line there. Remove that line out of there. Chat. If you listen quietly, you'll be able to hear the fuses blowing inside my head. Remove that there. And all we've got to do, remove that one. Put a dimension on there. What did we say? 4.5 from there to there. That moves our hole to where it needs to be. The problem here is I don't know if it is a problem. It looks about right. Other distance here, we need to do the same with. So that's this one. And we need to do that the same here. So probably all we need to do is measure that one from there to there. 4.5. And that's done that. So let's have a look at it now. If you verify that sketch and click the green button, it should eventually bring back this part we've got here. What is that the piece that we were drawing on the side to change, put a draft on it, hasn't gone all the way along. So we might fix that next. That's just an easy type, easy measurement. Let's fix that. We put part one, and it's visible over the top like it should be. I'm not convinced it's in the right spot yet. Interestingly. Seems like it should be in the middle. And it's not. Probably we should have a ruler. Should also be about 29 mil long on the bottom. Let me go back to that. Sometimes you've got to go back to things. Let's measure that. This distance between here and here should be 29 millimetres. That's not even close. So we misjudged that quite excessively. This was 8 degrees. I don't know what we made this one here. Two degrees. Let's go 98. It's having trouble with that. We need to do a video about constraints and editing them. That's not going to work. Couple of control Zs. Delete that. Let's get rid of that line completely. Put this down here, that angle, and then check that. Too. So that looks right. Still not enough here. It's going to be one of those sort of drawings, I think. This part. Extended that across because it's missing. We'll trim that out. Press escape to get rid of everything that's pressed down up here. Select that dimension and get rid of that. And put another dimension in and see how we're going. We're up to 24. We still want to go 5 more mil. I wonder whether we've got enough angle on these two here. I don't think we have. How's the best way to do that? If we delete that line, like so, that point there, and this line, like so. Right. And we'll work out that this line here should be 8 millimeters long. That's what we said before. There. Is that what we said? 8mm, yep. If we put this line down here, and put an angle on it. At 82. Not making any sense at all. Probably not. Are we having fun? Probably not. Then what we can do is, if we look here, we've got a transform button here. We can select that and that and all those and that. And we can move that along to that line there. And let's sort of fix that. Let's check our dimension again. 27, we're getting closer. So I think if we change this angle the same, we delete that. And we draw down here from that line there, that point there, on an angle. We'll just mirror the other line, but we won't. And then for dimension, if we click D, this is a shortcut for dimension if you're getting sick of that. Call that 82 degrees as well, which is 8-degree taper. Then we can transform this again. Remove that one. We select all them. And that one. Remove it from that point. By moving that centerpiece there, we can move that, and then we just pull the arrow so it clicks onto the next place. And we can trim that. There. There. Draw a line along between that point and that point now. Oops. Control Z, your friend. Then a line. It's 28.3, 28.4. It's starting to look like. I'm going to redraw this in. Q for a construction line between there and there. Construction lines don't change your face that you're going to extrude at all, so that's why we use those. Put another line down there from the center point. This is a little square, so it's the center point. That needs to be a construction line. We can change that after the fact. And what did we say? 4.5 mil from the front face down there. So dimension on there, between there and there. and a circle in there, 3 mil diameter. I'm going to call it 3.2 because I bet that's what it is. There we go. We're going to double check this height here and see what we did change that properly. And that was this distance from here to there. 4.6. That'll do. So, if we confirm that sketch, it's changed it, but it's done exactly the same thing because it's that much longer. So, okay. Other thing you can do is put through all as far as extrusion rather than put a measurement in, and that's probably a smarter thing to do. We turn this part on now. It's looking more like. Still think it wants to go back a bit. Could mess around with that all night. We're going to have another look at that. I think I need to move this back a bit further. So there's a little bit of messing around. This needs to be sort of in here. Need to be very similar. And because that doesn't, if we look at the right-hand side, looking at this here, we can see a very definite V in here where it actually comes out past there. So I think it needs to go back another 3 or 4 mil. Might do that off camera and come back to that. Get that right. But there we go. It's sort of where it needs to be. I think it still needs to be back. Probably 4 mil. But we're getting very close there. So let's sort that out. Let's go to something a bit more cosmetic and nice. We need to put Stanley around here. Scroll wheel to move that out. What are we going to do? We've done this on live stream before. Put a sketch. We're going to put it straight on this plane here. And we're going to use this front here. We haven't selected that yet. Face of extrude 3. This text function. A bit of a look at the font. Something like that. Oswald. I don't know if Oswald's the answer. It's a bit too gothic for me, or condensed. What happens if we close that off? It's terrible. We're going to probably go with that. that. First thing, I guess, is to work out the actual height of it. Because of crap, I'm going to guess that at 6 mil. And because it's an old plane, I'm going to guess it at 6.5, 6.35 exactly, but we're going to call it 6.5. Because that sticks out past there, I'll call that 6. And then it moved all the way up there. Why did it move up there? We can transform that sketch by selecting that, and it comes up with this. Bring that back down here where it needs to be. Still looks a little bit gothic. It's a bit compressed. We can change that, edit text, and look. That's got a serif on it. I don't like that. As has that. That one's probably more convinced than anything. It's got this very pronounced serif. Let's try that. Be better. We'll try again. Edit text. Could we? There's no bold. Well, right. Now we need to transform that again because it's not quite right. We select all that. We move this circle here. We can choose transform it from, and that's the center. What I've done is we get an orange line and it comes over the center. There we go, that's centered that. We want to select use and use that line. We need to array these lines here, these parts along the line. Let's extrude them first. It need to be that much. 0.6 millimeters, something like that. Yeah. We want to draft. We want the draft the other way. There's our letters. these need to be all aligned around this line here. That's what we need. With about a 1 millimeter gap, I guess. Let's start another sketch rather than do it on the other one. On that face, we'll use it to project that line. And then we'll offset that line. 1.2. And if we click this arrow to reverse direction, let's give us now give us our line. We can't just set these up so they're automatically array along there because it doesn't work like that. It's not quite that simple. But we can transfer a fairly simple job to transform this part here. I think we can do it. I'd have to think about how to do it, but we're going to just transform them. This little box here. We want to transform part 6. We want to transform by X, Y, and Z at this point. It's feeling a bit sluggish. We'll eventually do it, I think. That's not quite in the middle, so I'm going to change the X one to a little bit. -1. Let's try -1 here. -0.8. Let's try that. That looks pretty good. Confirm that. The same for this one. We're going to mess around with this until we get somewhere near. That's not bad. I think we're back. Start that sort of carry on, I might call this stream. But I'll get this one back. I get this letter in place. And there's a couple of jobs we can do off camera. Let's rotate that. Okay, we think about that. Because we put a because we've put a draft on that, makes it very difficult. Very difficult to rotate it cleanly on a flat, because if we select the line on the side for a rotation point, it's going to change the angle. That looks not bad. just move that a little bit with these a bit. But at this point, we've got 2 letters in, so going to mess with that a bit. It's a pretty time consuming. I could spend an hour doing that probably. So I'm gonna go ahead and do that off camera too. But we might call this. We haven't really achieved a lot. We've learnt that there's some really fiddly jobs that are going to take a little bit of work. That one's not going to be a difficult job to do, really. It's just a time-consuming job. This one here is going to need some more adjustment, but that's not a difficult job either. I'll have that ready to put in as part of the drawing when we come back. But anyway, the 2 of you that actually watch this, that's awesome. I know someone will watch it and probably take a little bit of knowledge away from this, I hope. But I appreciate you guys. I hope the audio was okay. I'm pretty tired too. I'm going to probably close this here. Instead of John asked the question about what's going on. It's past his bedtime. I'm old and tired. I got dirty today. I spent most of the day in the machine shop making some Morse taper drive dogs for a wood lathe. Not a complicated thing. We've got a master for an engineer's hammer, which is 500 long or something. It's a big handle. For an engineer's hammer, it's a big one, and it's a good master, and it's brand new. It's all laminated timber. It's a nice job. The trouble is with having 2 different size hammers is that you've got to have 2 different size masters. So you've got to scale them somewhere. And with the technology we have at work, that's not a particularly easy thing. So the best way we can do that is to make a longer drive dog by 50 mil on one end. So we use a blank to make them out of, instead of being, say, 450, which is the standard, the hammer size, engineer's hammer size for that master. We're only making 400 hammer handles, and we can scale them down on the machine by basically changing the copy ratios so that it becomes smaller, and we only use that much of the master. We don't use the end. So you end up with a smaller hammer handle from the same master, and they both look the same. Yeah, it's well past my bedtime too. So that's the job, was to make a drive dog, which is basically a piece of 32 mil or something like that, solid with Morse taper on one end, and all the Morse tapers all got to be identical, so they all go in the same amount. So you set them up with a gauge block so that they all compress the same, and when you set them in the machine, you can set them up nice. You can change them a little bit if you use a little piece of paper on the Morse taper, which is a woodwork trick. I don't know how it translates to metalwork. Probably not terribly, but use a piece of that's a slippery slope, John. Don't go down that one. But you should be able to get them right. So we've got 3 Morse tapers that are right with the blank on the end, and then we've welded a piece of flat bar, 14 by 30 or something, and a piece of plate on the end nicely. So they've got a flat section rather than machine them, and put 4 drive teeth on that, and then a removable centre with a lock nut or with a set screw. So yeah, and they've got because it's a copulate, there's got to be 3 identical ones. So did that, looks good, but that was today actually. Because of the floods, I had a mental health day yesterday. Went for a drive. That's about it, really. Did a few things around here. Got a lot of stuff to sort out. Bit of flood recovery, a bit more work on the lathe. We'll have a look at that tomorrow night. But anyway, it is past my bedtime. That's what's happening, really. John's making laps, and if he's in the chat tomorrow night and he's got nothing else to do, we'll make fun of him then. But Peter Silvio has just made a set, and he'd probably lend them to you because there was no practical use to anyone once you have a set. Did I say that out loud? I think I did. Yeah, that's my views on laps. Anyway. Anyway, John, I will be in touch because I'd like to order the parts for that Jeremy Schmidt grinder, the wheels and things for that. So I'll talk to you about that now at some point. Might be after work tomorrow. We'll see what happens. I think they've already opened one of them. I don't know if they're opening in Grafton, but they're opened in Coffs, yeah. Anyway, that's what's happening. I'll have a look at stuff downstairs tomorrow night, but I'm going to bed and crawl up in the back of the van, brush some of the rust off this right price fan that I picked up today. That's all over everything, and get into bed. Yeah, John, I did get a Bunnings one in the end, but I don't know how long that'll last, but at least I'll use the gas in it. I can get a refund on it. Anyway, we'll catch everyone soon. Thanks, guys, for tuning in. There's a third person there now. We've actually done the stream. We will have another look at this next week, but we might have these letters sorted out and organised nicely, and we might have that back piece in the right spot and ready to join into the rest and put a slot in it. So they're the jobs. Be kind to each other, and I'm out, guys. I'm done.